My name is Todd Engelmeyer. I work for the Department of Game and Inland Fisheries. I'm a wildlife biologist, and I work in what we call Region 1. Well, there's two things. One is I work on regulations and education to help protect wildlife and habitats. And that's one part of it, is the sort of the regulatory portion and the education portion. The other part is that I work really hard to connect people with wildlife habitats, the greater landscape, the environment. And what I mean there is more like outreach. I try to get people involved and make them understand what we're trying to do, why we're trying to do it, and that sort of thing. So there's other legs to that sort of chair, if you will, to what you're trying to accomplish. But the connect and protect sort of thing is really the nutshell of what most of us do. A part of my job is to look at regulations that are on the books and laws and general local ordinances and local laws. So we work with from the top down, from the Virginia legislature all the way down to local laws, and then our agency has regulations, and so all those are enforceable at some degree of jurisdiction and law. And so what we do is we try to look at the laws and regulations that are on the books and remove any that don't pertain to what we're doing now. For example, a lot of laws are passed many years ago that really have no bearing or interest or even influence people today. And so part of our job is to remove those. And then the other part is to change the ones that are there sometimes to affect things the way we need them to be affected. Most of the regulations that I work with pertain to either inhibiting people from destroying wildlife or taking wildlife. And then the other regulations that I work with a lot are the things that allow them to take wildlife. So my job is to inform them of what they're allowed to do, and then help them mitigate any ways and responsible ways to deal with it. So, and that's just one example. I mean, imagine every species that's out there has laws and regulations that protect it or allow for its take, and my job is to sort of educate people on what they can do, what they can't do, and help them do it in a way that's that's good for the environment, good for the species, good for conservation, good, considering all those things. So it's a balancing act. It's a juggling act, is the best way to put it. I mean, every day is like that. My favorite part. There's probably two things. One is I love working with people that are like-minded. The other part that's probably the most interesting and passionate to me is I work with a lot of invasive species, and detecting those species sometimes is really difficult because they're small or elusive or wary and things like that. And so what I do is I train dogs to detect invasive species, like bomb dogs. Yeah, so it's and I love animals, and I love working with animals, and I love training animals. So it's a a mesh of all of those things that I'm interested in. I give you a cookie cutter answer, but I'm gonna tell you what worked for me. I went through a lot of jobs. I think I had 18 jobs at the last time I tried to figure it out. So I did tons of stuff that I didn't want to do. And I think it allowed me for a couple things. One, it allowed me to become incredibly social and be able to deal with all kinds of different issues. I used to volunteer for the Department of Forestry to cruise timber, and just not to because I wanted to do that. I wanted to know what it was like to do that. And so now when I look back, when I interact with people, I think I have a great perspective of where they're coming from in terms of if they have an issue with wildlife or habitat or whatever. I can understand their perspective.